How's it
Five,
going? Oh,
4, 3.
what's
Up,
Hey.
Wes?
Let's get this started. On
Oh my gosh, Wes is going for it this time. I can't believe this. Heck yeah. It all
There we
happens
go.
here on election day.
Well,
Afterwards,
it's
anyway.
Afterwards, I'm glad it's kind of over now.
Yeah, well, it's
Oh.
not over yet. We don't have a new clear defined leader at the moment.
They had to
And,
make it interesting.
They did. It's this weird kind of reality TV thing, man. They keep the suspense rolling, right? All to keep the commercials playing because you got to get those ad advertisements in.
That's what I've always said about the whole media and everything like that. It's just
Cheers, man.
cheers. To keep people interested in watching the commercials. They're not really that, like, if you get informed by the news, it's kind of like a side. But the main thing is for you to just watch the
I mean, that's what it's all
advertisements.
about.
Yeah.
That's what my stepfather said. It's all fillers to get to the commercial, and, ratings and all that stuff. So I think Trump has done a great job of keeping it exciting and interesting. I like that he did his acceptance speech last night, right? He's claiming that he's already won.
Yeah.
Good old Trump fashion. They've already got controversy about a couple states about the voting.
Yeah.
Market's not really going crazy like everybody thought it would.
I'm actually surprised that I thought it'd be more volatile, but
They didn't even burn down Atlanta, bro.
no, I didn't think that was going to happen either. I think that people were worrying a little bit too much about too many things.
It's because they were prepared for it. My buddy who still works at Smith said they had like boarded up everything. It was like a ghost town, and that's not how 2020 works. 2020 doesn't want you to be prepared for all its beautiful surprises it has for you. So it was like, all right, y'all think it's gonna. All right, I'm gonna let y'all get settled down, ease in, relax. Then I'm pull one more rug out from underneath y'all. What do you think?
Nah, I know
Think
one
2020's done with all its stuff for right now?
Dude, we still got a lot of the year left.
We do.
I mean,
2 months. A lot can happen in months.
good solid 2 months. Yeah, I do know one thing. Probably a lot of people have plenty of toilet paper in case something goes wrong now. They probably have still a bunch in their basement.
Yeah, my dad totally took off 2 days just to make sure he's not out there today and yesterday, and I'm just it's all good, man. I welcome all that with open arms. Not that I wish any of that, but to me, that's the beginning of a nice long vacation.
Yeah, I think the tension has been lifted now on everyone. So I feel like a palpable decrease in tension. I talked to a guy who his job, he works for campaigns. He worked in Florida, and he worked for Biden. And he said it was the weirdest thing. Come election day, it was super quiet. And I was like, well, that makes total sense to me because all your work has been done. He does like the data crunching for all the people that knock on doors and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it was things are starting to calm down. I don't think it really matters who wins. At least, well, it does matter now. But I'll just be honest with you. I think that politics is a pendulum, and I think the swing is probably healthy to let people kind of calm down. So that's my thing. I want people to just kind of turn it down a little bit because people have been pretty mad about things. So,
and how much of that do you think Russia and China might have played a role in social?
I mean, there's a meme somewhere I'm sure out there of them just sitting back going.
Oh, you mean the one with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's like,
yeah, it's like that. Exactly. You have corruption in your elections.
Man, I just
Yeah, they don't even have elections. See, that's the thing. People are all like, oh my God, it's gonna be so great. No, I mean, look, I've not seen anything that's just strikes me as egregious. I think, by and large, the people that spend their time to work at elections, they're going to be very interested in democracy, and I think they don't want to end up in jail. And I think that if something actually was untoward or happened, and they got caught for it, no, everyone's going to throw them under the jail. So I think everyone's trying to do basically what they can do on the up and up. But yeah, I mean, if you look at those other countries, I mean, they don't even have really elections.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't. They really don't.
They're very jealous and envious of us, and they want to tear it down. Even though I still think, not that I have any proof, but I think on that level of, it's just more of a it's more controlled by the hierarchy of people, wealth, things like that. They're definitely going to cover their asses. They're going to make sure the people they want get in, and everybody plays a role, I think, to some degree. And I think they believe in your idea that it's like this pendulum, and they need the faces to change because they don't want to make it too obvious. So they try to get the most likable, and, at the end of the day, it's not really the president who's going to make all the bigger changes they really want anyway on the back end. It's usually Congress, things like that. They need to make sure that's in their favor to pass the right laws and bills and taxes and all that stuff so they can just keep consolidating that wealth, man. And I think on the surface, we get all excited about it, and we, have like arguments about Trump versus Biden and all that stuff. And, and it's just, I just feel like we're all being, it's like, Pinocchio's guy that pulled the strings? Geppetto. Yeah. There's somebody up there. And, I can't help but just think that, I think the closest I have to anything influence-wise just starts from this radius out.
Yes. Exactly, man. Like, you got to be the change you want to see in the world. And that's the thing that I had to keep reminding myself as a moment of peace. It's like, whatever happens doesn't really change my life that much. Nor can I change it. So worrying about it and getting all flustered about it is not really going to be productive anyway at all. So how did you watch it last night?
Man, so that's a good story. I'm working at a sports bar where we are totally unbiased. Right, we don't have politics, and that's just a rule.
So you had like CNN.
No,
Fox
man, dude, we
screens.
had sports, and I noticed like halfway into my shift, after I got through the dinner pop, I was like, nobody asked me to turn the TV to the election.
People were probably there not to watch the election.
100%, because as soon as I turned it on out of my curiosity, somebody told me to turn it off.
Ooh, they're like, we're getting away from this.
And then I tried to put it on the most, like, the least watched TV in the corner that's, like, angled the worst TV to look at, and somebody told me not to turn on that. Now, later on and throughout the night, I did get a couple people, and...
Did you get any trading in? Or were you trying to? Or
I was watching it. I didn't see anything good. It wasn't until this morning when I woke up at 8 o'clock and I was like, oh, I'll take that breakout. And that breakout worked out great for me. And I'm glad I woke up at 8 because I definitely was like, in my mind, totally ready to go back to bed, But I just checked. I always make a habit of it. Like, let me just look at the market real quick. I can at least look at it from my bed. So if it sucks, I'll go back to sleep. If not, I get my ass up and go put a trade on. And that's exactly what I did. I went and go and put a trade on, went back to sleep, and woke back up later. And I was like, all right, cool, I'm up. Those are my favorite trades where I can just forget about it and come back and the trade's working in his favor.
It's nice when it works out like that.
Yeah, I did try to put another setup on a smaller time frame happen, and I did put that on and quickly realized that thing wasn't going to go, so I closed out for a little bit of profit. I was like, all right, cool. And then I also was like, you know what? This trade's already gone past its preserve mode. It's way up there. Do I really want to fall back to my preserve mode stop, or I'll just take profit? I was like, this is a 10-minute trade. I'm already up I was almost up to 300 at the time, so like 245 I think I ended up closing out with for today. Because then I turned around and tried to short it for a little bit, and I think I lost a couple more bucks on that too. So it was like one winning trade, one trade that fit my plan but didn't work out, and I got it with a little bit of profit, and then one trade that did fit my plan, bearish side, that just didn't work out at all. So clearly, and now it's still going down, but it got me stopped out before it went down. I'm okay with that.
Good.
I am learning that, and I think we'll this is a good little segue, right? Because you and I have both been going through some trials and tribulations of tradings, and my lesson learned is all right, man, it worked, right? And my problem is I get excited that I had one winning trade and I want to keep trading. I'm like, man, let me add on to it. So now I'm getting away from, I did make that mistake of trying to add on to it. I could have, it fit my plan. That's the one positive thing, is all three of the trades fit my plans. Cool. It's just also too, at the same time, like, I'm happy with that first trade. I can be happy with that first trade. And we're in it's election day after election. Like, things are going to do volatility type moves, so I should be careful. I should probably just take what I got. Either way, I kept my risk small. and it was great. I mean, I was like, the two losing trades were enough to where one was a little profitable, one wasn't. I'm good. In the past, I've fucked up and I've just like revenge trade, done shit, you know, and then before you know it, I've given back all my profits that I literally spent, if not sometimes more, you know, and just fucking pissed. You know how it is. You got stories to share yourself.
Well, no,
you know?
you got to take a step back. That's what I've been doing. I wanted to let me back up though, and I can kind of segue into what you're talking about because like this morning I woke up and the first thing that I checked was the betting market. Like I went to a watch party last night.
Yeah, explain this a little bit more because you've actually this has been a thing for you. What you just showed me is new. That was cool, but you've always brought up the whole like betting, like people actually betting.
Well, I love markets
On like people do sports betting, but betting on elections, and that I remember you talking about that like last election, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I mean, it's people putting their money where their mouth is. You know, it's one thing for the pollsters to do their thing, but then you know, for people to actually make a market. In other words, I'm willing to bet this much that Trump's going to win or Biden's going to win, whichever one. And so that all kind of came and coalesced into these betting markets. And there was one that I watched all night last night that my friend showed me. It's if you go on TradingView and type in Trump win USD, it's actually a cryptocurrency, you know, token. It's backed up by, you know, the Ethereum blockchain, and you can basically if Trump won, it would be worth $1. And so before last night, it was trading at about 32 cents, which means, you know, you put down 30, you can make maybe 60 something cents. So it's about a 2-to-1. Then as soon as those election results started coming in, it shot up, peaked at about 81. And I was trying not to get, you know, too wrapped up in it, but of course I'm going to be looking at a price chart. You know, CNN's doing their projections to keep people interested. I'm just watching that thing go parabolic. And friend I was watching it with, he was in pretty deep on the Trump side and took profit at 75, only about a third of his position. And so I was like, that's probably healthy, you know. But nah, man, you need to just hold it, you know, get the full. But he bought back in that position at like 65 when it came down. And then, like, when I went to bed last night,
there it is.
I went to bed last night.
That's how the casinos win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what it was is the market was pricing it in based on all the information they had last night. I went to bed about 3, and when I went to bed at 3, it was trading about 71, which is, you know, 71% chance. I woke up this morning and it was like, it was such a price chart, man. It had gone all the way back down to like 17 or something like that. And man, it's not looking good for his position. His bet on that. But that's the way markets are, man. Like I couldn't like everyone. It really kind of speaks to how, you know, price and markets they can be correct, you know, with all the information provided, but it can just change on a dime. And I find that fascinating. So, but yeah, he did the whole, took a little bit of profit and got a little, you know, little greedy and forgot to realize that, you know, if you buy it at 65, there's only a 65% chance. So
poor guy, man. That's pretty interesting that you come up with something like that for people to bet on. I guess it's just bet on anything these days, huh?
Well, I mean, that's like I would actually, let me challenge that, because I would say that if you believe that one's going to have more volatility in the market than the other, you could hedge with a bet in that. But yeah, it is just basically people betting. Like I didn't put anything on that because I find it interesting to watch, but the reward risk just isn't there. That's why I don't do sports betting either. Like because you know, usually it's like you bet on your team and you risk 100 to make 110. It's like that doesn't seem like a good odds to me.
There are some people who are way more into it, and they do a lot of the research. They find out what players are healthy.
They give themselves an edge.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, and they bet based on that. Same thing with like UFC fighting.
Oh yeah, I remember that years ago. What was it? You called the Ronda Rousey one. Yeah,
and a lot of it is because there's a lot to say in the weigh-ins, and there's a lot to say in the face-off. You know,
well, I remember the odds were such that I remember. I don't remember. Maybe
2
you
weeks
remember
out,
the
it
details.
was like ridiculous. It was like 16 to 1 or something like that.
That's because the market was pricing for Ronda Rousey to win because she was
Ronda
the
Rousey
favorite.
had all the hype.
Right.
A lot of people really didn't understand Holly Holm's resume, and she had already had been in boxing world with multiple titles. Had already been knocked out. She just had already went through all that. The only thing that was different now was A, it was in UFC, and B, there was more hype and media around it. You know, and at that time, that was when Ronda was getting all the movie deals. You know, they were going to redo Roadhouse with her in it. You know, like all this stuff. And
She was
just
losing focus.
man, and this happens all the time with fighters. They get to a point where the ego overrides the humbleness, and they just think they're invincible, or they feel like they need to fulfill this narrative, you know, of like catchy lines. And like McGregor is great at it. Now, where McGregor trumped everybody else is when he lost, how he handled it.
Are you talking about when he lost to the boxer? What was it? Or
No, he lost. His first loss was to Nate Diaz. He got
Okay,
choked
okay,
out, right? On that point, he was on a high.
yeah.
And he got choked out. And, you know, he just took it.
How do you come back from it?
Oh, like the same, like a fucking boss.
So it's kind of like
He got Mayweather fight after that. You know,
That's
he
what I'm
went and
saying.
got
I
another
remember
belt.
the Mayweather
like,
one. Yeah.
You know, he was double champ, and he just it just his reflection of that loss and what he was talking about and how he was dealing with it versus like Ronda, who just recently at the time had lost back to back. She just was like, especially on that first loss, man, she just like disappeared. You know, just like really like she would just talk, and then all of a sudden she loses and she just can't be found.
You're saying it's psychological. Yeah.
What can I say?
I mean, that's it. Yeah.
But that all plays in a factor. You know, the other thing, too, that was like leading up in that week was that I thought was crazy is her boyfriend she was dating at the time, now husband, had been on the radio, and he was kind of like, you know, yeah, I'm hitting that kind of talk, you know, like, and then the other thing that came out was an interview with her mom. Her mom used to be an Olympic judo teacher, champion, all this stuff. That's where she got the whole judo background from. She's also like a doctor in psychology and all this stuff. Very, you know, accomplished woman. And she does not like her coach, the boxing coach she had. She just despised him. And this interview came out where she's just talking shit. Now, what's crazy was that came out the week before the weigh-ins. That interview was like apparently done a month or two earlier. But the timing of it all, on top of, you know, watching the weigh-ins, watching the face-off, you know, it just – and I knew Holly Holmes. I'd done my research on Holly Holmes. I was like, man.
Yeah, this was your thing.
This was like her real first competition. Up until that point, that whole women's league was very new. You know, they were just trying to find any girl possible to throw in there with her, and she was just eating through them. Misha Tate was probably the only other competition she had that was competitive at that level, I think. And there was not to take away from some of the other girls. It's just Ronda was just so ahead of the game where Holly Holmes finally was somebody who had just as much competition experience, probably even more, dealt with more loss, but just enough to me where I was like, ooh, let's not count this girl out. And, you know, she has a good camp. She had Winklejohn, or whatever John Jones, all them. It's a big camp, man. Like it's fucking well known camp, coaching staff. And I was like, man, this ain't the one to count her out on. So I was like, man, guys, just throw $100 down for me. Like, nah, Ronda's gonna win. I don't want you to lose your money.
I remember you.
I was
were
like, I
real
got
sure of
$100.
it,
Yeah,
but
man.
you didn't put your money where your mouth was.
Well, see, I hadn't used those apps. I always just, you know,
I don't even know what to do because I mean it's like
well, they
kind
do it
of
all the
shady legality because you gotta like do it in Vegas. And,
yeah.
But
They
think,
knew all that, so
yeah.
I was just comfortable giving them the money because they were already doing it on football.
they'd already
and
figured it out.
basketball.
Yeah.
And
Well, for these election things, predictit.us, I think, was one where they got a special exception from the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading, one of the regulatory bodies, to actually be the one American thing. So I think Americans could actually bet on the election this time around.
wow,
So,
I don't put it past. I think all that's fun. That's like I told you, one of the next podcasts I'm working on is all based around betting with the poker table and all that stuff. Sure bet.
Oh yeah, that's something you could look
You know, the
at for
games,
sure.
all that stuff. It would have been nice to do that with the election too. That would have been cool.
Well, if you go and look it up, I took screenshots of it because eventually, when that token stops being traded, it's supposed to settle either tomorrow, But if there's no result or winner,
So
then
it's got to settle what, either on 0 or 100.
you got to exactly, and you'd have to like.
So now would be
redeem
the
it.
time to buy since it dropped. It's assuming he's going
If
to lose.
if it's at like 7, well, yeah. I mean, it's
Buy it
basically
now, and if he wins, I mean, you don't got much to lose, right? We're talking, what was it at?
17.
Yeah, 17 cents.
17 to, so you could make probably like 20, or excuse me,
So that's
82.
a hell of a markup if he wins.
I mean, it's risk and reward.
Yeah.
It's risk and reward is what it ends up being. So, I mean, I thought it was very interesting how those inversions happened at like the 3-to-1s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are the places to go because that's where it was back in 2016. I think it was at a 3-to-1. You know, that magic, risk reward point.
God, dude. So true. I apply that to everything in life now. It's funny how trading just, and that's what really I liked about trading, helping me understand just risk. Right? Because before that, I don't know if I've said this on here before, but because I know I've said it a dozen times, the analogy of driving by that lottery billboard, and you just see those big numbers, and all of a sudden now you want to play, but you've never played before, but you just want to play because you don't want to miss out on the big $304 million.
Because you're not going to win, but you're definitely not going to win if you don't play.
Right. And it
even though you're not going to win.
It just goes for like buying a home, like simple stuff, buying a car, things that we can all relate to is we see a price tag and we're like, man, that's a good deal. But do you really know it's a good deal? Have you looked under the hood? Have you done an inspection? Going into the risk side of it, even now, I thought I had a pretty good deal on this house. I thought I did everything right, inspections, and I find some things too where I'm like, oh, okay. But I still think I got a pretty decent deal. There were a couple little things. I was like, all right, my
Like it
first
didn't
time
come
home
up in the
buyer.
inspection? Or?
Maybe if I just like took a little bit better, I probably still would have bought it. I probably still would have bought it. But
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I would buy in a second house, because I bought my house based on a few reasons. Like I liked that it had a koi pond in the backyard, and I liked that it had a hot tub.
Yep.
And then once I got there, like I realized those are actually when I remodeled it. Those are the two things I took out.
Yeah.
And because it's like they were just liabilities at that point.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know that now that I get into it. Like I would never have a house with a pool because I grew up. And it was like every
Unless you
time
got money to throw away, man.
Well, it's money. No, it wasn't just money. It was like I would get to swim around, like wait around for about 5 minutes. My dad would come out and be like, "All right, get out, help me clean." And it was like every day I was working on that pool. I was like, "No, this pools are about maintenance. It's a hole in the ground that you can't let turn into a mosquito den."
Yeah,
So-
yeah, that's so true, man. And that's even more the reason why you gotta just think those things through, man. You once you understand that risk, you can truly value that reward.
What have you been working on research wise? Always got something in the fire,
Yeah, man. I've been more working on the podcast stuff. I was telling you about my buddy and I trying to get into the whole Twitch world. That's taken up usually when I'm free. That and between video editing, I've tried to keep up with the movie review, but man, the whole theater thing is really
man.
I don't know if you noticed, but I was reading articles, but like not AMC, what is it, Cinemark?
One of them went out of business. You talking about like
Regal shut down.
Really?
The majority of their locations, with the exception of like 3 or 4 in California, and AMC, all the other guys have taken hits. All the Disney has made a move. They moved some of their movies to the streaming. Mulan was like a big deal apparently.
Yeah. That was actually pretty good. I watched it. Yeah.
So it just that kind of put a damper on things. Just trying to find A, movies that are in the theaters, and B, people to go see the movies. I went and saw. I went out with somebody Monday night, I think. Yeah, Monday night, and we went just randomly saw Spell. It's a horror movie. It's
good.
Yeah, man, it was a all black cast, kind of voodoo-esque, but like hillbilly up in the Appalachian Mountains. Like it wasn't like awesome.
That's kind of
it just was like for like I think it was cool because I just didn't know what to expect.
How packed was the theater?
There were like 5 of us in there.
Oh, that's too bad because you want to go see one of those movies with a packed out theater like somewhere. Like inside the perimeter of Atlanta.
Gross moments. I'm
well, it's just like the whole
I like totally cover up and look through my fingers.
Well, no, it's just like the whole theater gets involved in it and that kind of stuff. It's just like if you got a big packed theater for that.
It was a cool theater too. It was one of those too where you can like order food and eat, and they got the really nice chairs.
Those
that,
are
like,
surviving. Those seem to be surviving actually.
Because they got little niches, especially if it's food oriented. And it will be interesting to see which theaters survive, because I know some of them were really struggling. Like AMC had like their whole thing is they had just bought some theater branches as well as like done the whole, you know, they went into like the really nice red seats, the recliners and all that stuff. So all that stuff was hindering, you know, going into that whole COVID thing. And but they seem to be, you know, getting through. And then, you know, all the movies that are kind of getting pushed around. I really wanted to see Wonder Woman. I was super excited about that.
I want to see the James Bond, Top Gun, and the Matrix one. I mean, all the fun ones.
You know, it's so funny about this Matrix movie. I've yet to see a trailer for it.
Yeah,
but I hear all about it. Keanu Reeves, like, literally would have had 3 movies that would have came out this summer.
What was it? It was Bill and Ted one?
And I think John Wick.
Oh, John Wick,
and Matrix.
That Keanu Reeves, man. Is there anyone that doesn't like Keanu Reeves? I don't know anybody that doesn't like Keanu Reeves. Everyone thinks he's like one of the greatest human beings.
Just the dude from The Matrix.
Yeah, he's cool and he's very grounded.
Yeah, man, definitely come a long way since his Bill and Ted days and Point Break.
But the thing is about like the movie theaters, I mean, like a lot of businesses, I mean, I hate for people that work at them, but a little bit of creative destruction is going on. I mean, they've been struggling for a decade. So.
Yeah, I think that's, what do you think? That's more of like a 30-year plan to turn around and see about? Because I wouldn't go just jump in and investing into them right now, right?
I think there were maybe too many movie theaters.
Same thing like with the airlines. It's the same thing with restaurants, dude. There's too many restaurants.
Yeah.
You know, restaurants took a big hit.
I mean, we can only eat so much. I mean, those were the big trades in the summer that people were really focused on, like the cruise lines, the airlines, the movie theaters, because people thought they were a deal. But again, it goes like to that betting thing about like the market. I mean, you know, right now, I don't know what it is, but coming into it, you know, Trump winning is priced in at 17 cents for the dollar. I mean, it's priced there for a reason. It's because that's the probability of it. And I think that's what happened. I tried to impress upon people the reason the movie theaters are so low, the reason the cruise lines and the airlines is because people have priced in what it's worth to put in there. And, you know, they may come back. But how long is it going to come back? And meanwhile, there was all kinds of other opportunities to put your money into.
Yeah, I definitely took advantage of a lot of like Home Depot, Walmart, things like that.
Those were wise because people, you know, in times of these uncertainties with inflation, they put the money into their houses.
Yeah, my retirement, my Roth IRA that I started is doing pretty well right now.
That's another thing about this. Like, people were like, "Oh, if Biden wins, the market's going to go down." Trump wins. No, both parties have no plans to stop the spending. It's really just arguing about
how much they're going to spend.
We're going to spend $2 trillion.
Somebody
We're going to spend $3 trillion. Let's
yeah.
split the difference. You know, that's what a compromise is about. And so it's going to be pretty much the same. And as I've said, like actually,
did you do the early vote or did you vote day of?
I did a mail-in. Yeah.
Oh, you did the mail-in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, it worked just fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume my vote was counted. I was just assuming, but
according to Trump, no. But
well, who knows?
Either way, man, I went day of. I tried to go a couple times early vote.
How was the line? Was there any line?
Dude, not only was there not a line, all the ballot boxes weren't even full.
Yeah, you know,
so I literally just walked. I went to the church right around the corner.
No one was there.
Walked in.
I think everyone kind of was so worried about they all voted ahead of time and. They made it pretty efficient.
Let's do that more often, man. That would make me want to go vote all the time. Now, the only thing about voting that I need to get more educated on the lower end, because like I said, man, going back earlier when I was talking about it starts from here on out. I believe that too on the local circuit. You know, where I can actually go meet people. I can, you know,
dude,
see faces, shake hands.
You should run for office.
So that's definitely always there. I think. Again, starting from here first, let me get this right.
Okay.
You know, but I think in my
election.
60s, 70s, you know, I could work my way in there.
Oh, dude, why wait, man? Then you're going to be too old and don't have the energy, man.
Because I want to have a family first, man.
I mean, who knows? You could, like, marry your campaign manager because she's just, like, totally, like, all about you and, like, wanting to see you. Oh,
it's not about me. It's about us.
Well, you're the face on the billboard. Hey, man, you don't know. Hey, you know this, man. You don't know what, like, path your life is going to take.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. And that's one thing I've learned too is, you know, you always got to have goals. You always got to have a plan because like the laws of physics, what stays at rest will remain at rest.
That's a big
What's in
deal,
motion will go in motion. Now, once you're in motion, now you have to be smart enough to realize when the universe is guiding you. And it's like, all right, man, I know what your ego thinks you want you to be, but I got a better plan for you. And I felt like the universe always has shown me that there's more to what I got going on than I even can imagine myself, because my ego is producing all what I want to be versus from a non-selfish point of view, what the universe has planned for me, because there's clearly a bigger picture. You know, and I when I was 23 and I was in the hospital, had my near-death experience, I definitely have always felt like my time past that has always been
given
for something better than just myself. You know, like just that's always been since that point, that battle of the ego and coming back to like, all right, man, it's more to it than just me. And that's why, you know, you're always saying, man, you're always positive, all this stuff. That's where that comes from, because it's like, you know, I feel like, man, I sat there on death's door. Like, so when people talk about stuff and they get all worked up, I'm like, man, you're wasting so much energy.
What
so
did I tell
much
you?
time.
What did I tell you when I came in here, man? I don't know if you, I said one thing I said to you was like, I need to be around your positive energy. What if your positive energy is meant to be shared? Like you have a message to get out to people. I mean, people just freaking like you, man. I mean, and if you could go out there and like get out your positive
they
message.
either love or hate me, and there's like no in between.
I don't know anybody.
And if they
that
hate me,
hates
I think
you.
they hate me because they hate that they
They're
love me
hating
so much.
on you. Yeah, you have.
They're like, I hate to love you, motherfucker. 'Cause
Yes,
you're just so fucking.
I think they're just jealous of things. But I mean, what part of play of the universe do you think you have in directing it, though? Let me ask you
Like I
that.
said, my part is to remain in motion,
Mm-hmm.
because the universe can't do nothing with you if you're stagnant, right? So it's my job to always be in motion, because then it can steer me. But if it's stagnant, it can't do nothing.
I mean, I can't move the Earth out of its orbit, but I can, like, with my will, I can take this matter, which is not insignificant. There's a lot of atoms in here, and I can move this part of the universe. So the question is, how much of the universe do you want to move?
I don't even look at it like that. The universe is moving me, right?
Okay.
So what I'm doing is I have kind of a rough draft and outline bullet points of where I want to go, and the universe is filling in that picture, that canvas, the colors that I maybe didn't see or didn't realize were going to happen. You know, like, man, I was imagining this, but the universe provided this, and I like, wow, it turned out way better than I thought. You know, like, okay, I'm cool with that. You know, like, good job. But if I hadn't had that first initial thought,
It wouldn't happen.
wouldn't happen.
So get that moving. Get moving, man.
Man, we are. Look at what we're doing right now, man.
Yeah, we're speaking. We're talking.
We're on.
That's, I guess, a
I
start.
think this is like our 4th or 5th podcast, but this is our official.
This is the second name one.
official.
This is the second
Close of the
name.
bar.
This is the
Cheers
third
to
one.
that.
Cheers. Yeah.
To
hey,
being in motion
to be
in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
It would have been way too easy for me to like call you up and say like, man, I don't feel like it today. But I knew it was important to you. I'm glad you called and checked on me. To make
I'm
sure.
proud of you, Wes, because you've come a long way, even in this year in particular. 2020 has not
Ooh,
held
this
you
year.
back, and it hasn't held me back either, man. I was talking to a friend about that, and you know, you definitely have turned around and made some leaps and bounds, and super excited to see that. So, you know, when you're like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit, that's cool, man. We all go through that.
I remember just last time we were talking about how you were at this point where you had called me and you were like, what should I do? And I was like, you just gotta take a break. And then
That's what friends are for.
And you know what, man? I really picked up, and I appreciate it. Like, you know, last couple of weeks you kind of felt that vibe, and so you called and you checked on me. So hey, thanks.
Yeah,
man.
man. Because you know, it's
traders need that, and that's one of the things that I really sought out. You know, trying to get more social and stuff like that, is because there's really not that much of a support system out there. I mean, everyone's trying to trade their own. It's a very selfish kind of business, but and everyone's very secretive about it too.
Yeah, you know, I
And
wish,
so-
you know, I tried to interview people in the very beginning when I started Coquett's Cornering and Coquett's Corner, and I just, you know, was a little upset that people wouldn't follow through. I had people that would commit and then like flake last minute, and I came to that same conclusion. I just like people just don't really want to share their experience.
You talking about in trading? Or
Yeah, I was just trying to find other retail traders like us.
Yeah, because
to get on and talk
feel
about what they do, and so on. And I just
because I think that people, they spend a lot of time. Like, I know I've spent a lot of time on my research trying to find an edge, and what I find is that when I get to an aha moment where I believe I have something, and I do, and I've proven it to myself, I want to share it with the world. But I realized, wait a minute, if everyone starts doing this, if the edge will start to go away.
And that sucks because that's not really what I was looking for. 95% of all retail traders fell, and I think
it's not true.
What that is that's probably why I didn't get a lot of people on there, because most of the people are not successful and they don't want to talk about it.
Well,
and that's what I want to talk about.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, I want to talk about that too. Like,
that's real,
because like I've seen this year, I've gone through the arc of success and failure, and like I'm still like up on the year, but I've taken a hit. And that's why when I look at like some of these, gurus out there, like posing in front of Bentleys and stuff at 25 years old, they ain't making no money. I'll say it right now, because it is because first of all,
commercial scammers.
You're not old enough to appreciate risk. I can say that now as getting to be an old man. You're not old enough to appreciate risk and have that drawdown. And the thing about this whole like you're going to be consistently, no, the market changes. What happened this year? The summer was great.
Now, even when we were talking about that strategy I was telling you about with my uncle, right? Mm-hmm. That worked for a while, and then it didn't.
Oh, the selling the covered calls on, or the calls on. Oh, well, I mean, that was obvious to me that I was going to mess up. It's just it wasn't readily apparently obvious to me that my strategy was going to stop working. But here's what happened: I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to get it out there, basically confess. I got into bad habits, and I stopped using stops. And here's what happened. Like in the summertime, I was in this trade on Ford. And Ford opened up below. It actually opened and went down below my stop, which I didn't have on that one day. And then it shot right back up. That was, and let me tell you what the math comes down to on that. That was a 5.38 to 1 risk reward trade because I didn't get stopped out. Okay? In the last few weeks, I took basically 3 losers. One of them was a 3 times risk. Another one was a 2 times risk. And another one was another 2 times risk. So basically, instead of taking 3 losing trades, I took, 7.
Yeah, man, you gave back.
And so, but
I
if you
that's
think
very
about
charitable of you, bro.
But if you think about it, that one win that I got, because that's the only one, I went back through my logs and I saw, okay, how many of these actually went to my stop and would have stopped out? It was just that one that I saw. If I would have taken that loss and I would have stayed consistent, instead of getting that 5 and losing 7, I would have been up. You see how that works? Because we get really, really focused on, when we make a mistake and we break our rules and we get rewarded and basically I just let that habit continue until what did the market do? The market changed. It really changed in these last couple of weeks. And it's not that the strategy is bad. It's not that I'm necessarily bad. It's that you get in this thing and I failed to recognize that the market had changed, and I failed to recognize that I was cutting corners.
Man, this is a weird comparison, but only because I was just watching this last night about these 2 Queens drug dealers, right? And one of the things they did that led to such a long, successful, like 2 decades or so of drug dealing, was they didn't have a problem closing down shop for a couple years and just disappearing. Did you know that a Fed case, if there's nothing to go on within 6 months, they got to shut that case down?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they would disappear. Fed cases would go dead for 6 months. They'd have to shut the investigation down.
I'll tell you why.
They were disciplined enough to deal for 4 or 5 years, and then when they felt like the heat was coming on, boom, they'd shut it down and just disappear for a year or 2.
Bro, I wish I would have had. I wish my friend, he got into some stuff and he was taking big risk. Like it sounds like these guys, they figured out exactly that.
What's crazy is they didn't even know about the 6-month thing with the Fed. They that's just what they would do.
They knew to take a break.
They were just so disciplined. It was 3 brothers and they were so disciplined in the way they moved, and their circle was so tight. And the only reason they even got into what they got into was because a family member with the same name that wasn't part of their clique ended up rolling on them. But they they were disciplined, dude, and discipline is.
But wait, they still got.
Well,
obviously, if we're talking about them,
they did, but they always say too, the Fed always gets their guy. But what's even more remarkable about their case is that because they were so disciplined, it was hard for the Feds to get a whole lot of concrete evidence on them. One of them only did 7, the other did 11, the other did like 22, which is incredible considering what they were up against and what other people get life and all that stuff. If you look at all the other great people that are glorified in that world, you know, are in jail for life. The only other person that was able to beat that was Ricky Ross, the real Rick Ross, with the Iran Contra and all that stuff. He was the guy that like was known for moving.
He had dirt. That's how he got off of it. Yeah.
Well, no. He's got a great story, man. His own connect is what threw him under the bus. He'd actually gotten out of the game, decided to get back in, called his connect, and his connect told on him from Honduras or Guatemala or whatever it was, and he was working for the CIA. So the CIA was using him and put that, and that's kind of like the whole controversy of that whole situation was like, wow, our own government set him up, you know, right? They used him to like deal the drugs to get the money to do the Iran Contra, all that stuff back and forth. And he was just this pawn in this overall scheme. Now, he went to jail. He was illiterate. He did not know how to read. He taught himself how to read. He taught himself law, and he found a loophole and got himself out.
Okay, I'm remembering that. Yeah.
And now he's out, and now he does drugs legally. He sells marijuana legally now. So yeah, he's tried to sue Rick Ross for the whole situation on that too. And
I mean, he should probably get a little bit of royalties for using the name and like the life, like the image.
Yeah,
a little bit. Come on, throw the guy.
I guess
a little
Rick
bit,
Ross didn't think old boy was gonna get out of jail, and demons came back to haunt him.
Yeah,
but and it's crazy because honestly, like you would think, the better way would be for the two of them to sync up and create a more positive impact with Rick Ross's influence. The other Rick Ross, who's now, he goes around and does motivational speaker, has got books, does all this stuff. So it's kind of sad. It sucks. But, going back to that FBI case, the thing that they set in that precedent was they took a plea deal, but it was a special kind of plea deal. Because it was one of those things where they're like, y'all are going to jail no matter what. Just it's a matter of how much years we're going to give y'all. So it wasn't that because a plea deal requires you to talk and basically confess what you did in your role and all that stuff. They never spoke, but they took this plea deal and the part of this, I wish I could remember what they called it. It was some kind of
called an elocution, is where they have to say what they did or whatever.
Yeah, but they didn't talk. The thing about this plea deal was that they were able to still fight their case like they went to trial. So they still had all those rights. Unlike a plea deal, you don't have any of those rights. You plea out, you take your time, that's it. You don't get to go back and fight it or nothing. That's it. So it was just definitely one of those things where it set a precedent. So not only did they have like this long run, they were smart to outrun the FBI for as long as they did. When they finally did get caught by the FBI, they still gave the FBI kind of a run for their money and did some really good or just kind of legendary, history changing law book type stuff. But now they're out and they're doing positive stuff. They're totally like, hey, we're not trying to glorify this. We're just very important. You guys understand. We'll tell our story, but we're not trying to put a battery in somebody's pack to go be a drug dealer, because the Fed always gets their man. I
mean, two things that come to mind to relate it to trading about the Fed thing is probability. On a long enough timeline, they definitely get their man. Like that's really what it is. It's like you can keep going for a while, but it's you're really just playing with a very high risk.
That's what the dollar is, right? The dollar is designed to lose value from its conception.
Well, since it got off the gold standard,
right? So. Which let's keep on that thought too. It makes me think of Rick, right? Deep. Yeah. But that's how they get it, right? That's the whole thing. So now going back and watching Rich Clark, right?
The podcast.
That podcast was really cool.
Oh yeah. So I'll have to link to that. Look up Concrete, Rich Clark.
I need to put that link. I meant to put that in my video the other day. I said I would. Because I really thought he did not just talking about Bitcoin, but just like the history of the economy. How the Federal Reserve came
I thought Rich did so good there because I know Rich and very well, and whenever he gave like a pause, I could tell like a million things went through his head, and he had like come down to like a very succinct thing.
Yeah, I could tell he was struggling to like keep a nice. He was like,
he got a great case. I remember when the guy asked him, he said, so the dollar is not backed on gold, is it? And Rich was like, no, it's not. And it was just I don't know how he phrased it in some other way. I just knew like a million things went in. He would just like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
So
I don't think he covered this, but I felt like it kind of got brushly went over. But with the cryptos being, because they did talk about, well, what's the crypto backed by? And, he broke that down about the whole blockchain and all that stuff. But I did hear once before they were talking about like a commodity-backed crypto. So what you do is you take the commodities of that country and you base that, and that's you tie that crypto into that value.
Right.
So you can actually give, more of it, because a lot of people don't really understand how the first part can really hold weight and value. Whereas if you put a commodity value, that can link a little more to where.
Well, it's something that has like value in the sense to it. But the problem is who really sets the deciding amount of that. Like, who's going to trade it for oil, for instance? And you need to have someone that's going to be perfect to make sure that everyone gets treated fairly. And that's always the problem. So, yeah.
Treated fairly.
Yeah. I was just listening to something on the way up here. Ray Dalio, who is incidentally having not such a great year himself, but he's going to bounce back. Hedge fund guy. He was talking about how not quickly, but that the Chinese renminbi or yuan, I don't know which one it is, but is going to become the world's reserve currency because most of the trading in the world goes through China in one form or another. It's the majority of it. And that's an interesting concept. That would be a big change.
How much manipulation they talk about, the gold
and that's
manipulation.
That's why I had to disagree with him. And I'm not a billionaire hedge fund manager, but like, a lot of people don't necessarily want to put their, faith and credit in
unless
China.
they tap into, unless China's investing a lot in Africa, and if they somehow that pulls into more of their validity of having a currency that could be backed, right?
Oh, so they're just doing their own colonialism, basically.
Dude, they are definitely. Have you know Akon, the artist Akon?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they are doing a lot of investment into Africa. They look at it like this. They realize that their economy is growing so fast that they need more people. So like India and Africa were the next two areas they were thinking to. So they're over there. And this is where Akon comes in because he's got his like whole community, I think he's even got his own crypto type deal. But he's bringing electricity to Africa, all this stuff.
What country is he from?
I'd have to double check again. But the idea was, what he was saying is that the reason China is coming in to invest in the infrastructure is because they need all that in order to future build that trade, that market. So they're basically building the underlying infrastructure because they want that trade, they want that market.
They want those resources.
They
to
do.
exploit.
They do. Who doesn't, right? And it's just it's interesting how the change of the guard is happening right now in front of our face. And every great empire has a good couple hundred years in them. We're in that space where we're over indulgence in sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and those are typically the telltale signs of the end coming of that empire.
Well, it's what's been kind of good in the last couple of years, and I don't think people appreciate it enough, is we are mostly at peace. Like in the grand scheme of the world history, we are basically in what we would say from here the Pax Americana. We've got the wars in the Middle East, but those are ongoing, but we haven't fortunately started anything new. And right now, was it Armenia and was it Azerbaijan?
ISIS disappeared.
Well, they didn't have any support from any major powers anymore. I mean, you got to have
all through Obama. It was like the thing.
Mm.
Now, like during Trump, it's like nothing.
Well, I don't know what all went on there because I just remember watching videos of whatchamacallit, these insurgents shooting rockets, these TOWs, missiles. And I went and looked up, like, who makes TOWs? Raytheon. How did they get those? They just fell off a truck, that came out of the Mediterranean? Or, sort of like, where are they getting these weapons to shoot? They were built here, and they somehow ended up there, and we have no control over that? Yeah. I think that we would probably have checked on where this went. They have serial numbers on them. They're like $70,000 a piece. Yeah. Usually they put serial numbers on stuff like that. But yeah, we're letting Turkey fight that war over there right now. Actually, they're getting into more of the regional stuff, and I think that's a good thing. I think when we're not going around being the world's police, it saves a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely.
And lives,
more stimulus check money for sure.
Yeah, man. Well, 2020's been the year of first, for sure.
Yeah, man. I definitely. I am so ready to celebrate New Year's Eve, dude. I hope we put this pandemic behind us.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely apparently more spikes. I know in Colorado, my nephews, you know, they tried to go back to school. They shut that down. It's having a spike. Apparently, parts of Europe, England, are shutting it down again.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to come of that. Like I was thinking that maybe it was a little bit, you know, inflated because of the election coming up, the anxiety. But in other countries, they're having these issues too.
So it goes back to like you
So-
just said, those weapons, right? Another form of warfare is medicine. You know, so like you were talking about, man, where did they get those missiles from, right? So the whole thing here is this. I call this new pandemic is the new. You had the war on drugs, the war on terrorism. Now you got this war on the pandemic, and that sector, you know, is going to benefit from this war of who can get that vaccine out, who can get the, you know, the ventilators was like a big deal. You know, all that stuff is just like this mad arms race, but in a medical world. You know, to me, that's just kind of what it is. It's just, it's an opportunity. They keep these numbers up. They keep the fear up. They keep the panic. And eventually somebody's going to come through, or a few people are going to come through, and they're going to benefit off all that happening, just like they did from the war on terrorism, the war on drugs. I mean, all that was an arms race. Now here we are with a new type of arms race, but through the medical world. You know, and it's a weird way to look at it, but it's essentially what it is. It's just these people on the back end are just profiting off of somebody else's downfall. That's what we do. Somebody goes up, we go down. You know, we go up, they go down. Somebody's winning when somebody's losing.
Yes, it is. That's the
You
way it
know,
goes.
like it's just part of the game. And once that's what I love. The other thing about trading is then you really start to really rationale things in a more realistic outlook of like, all right, well, these people over here are panicking, but who's grinning off of this panic? Who's counting the cheese right now?
I hope they're going into. I mean, everyone all year long has been thinking that we're going to get like a second downturn. I'm pretty convinced that we're not, because I've seen them now. I've seen 2008. I've seen this one. So within a decade, we'll have something, and I hope now I can have the wisdom out of this, because when we were in March in the bot, I mean, I was pretty convinced that we were going to come back,
Wes,
but
you should really do the dooms and gloom. Your ratings would go up.
Oh, dude. Nah, man.
Stocks
I'm
are
gonna,
overvalued.
I'm not.
This is the next
You
bubble.
know what? I'm just
Equity's
gonna stick with authenticity. I don't want to do anything else. So, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah. So let's wrap
All
up, man. When are you gonna get back into trading?
I'm in it now.
Okay, so you got a couple new strategies you're working on.
Well,
right?
what I need to get back into doing is
Working out
sharing,
too, right?
Huh?
Working out all together, because
Oh yeah, that's
the way you describe
yeah.
it, and this
It all comes in. Like
health, all that stuff, man.
your exercise.
I've actually
your
quit
diet.
drinking coffee, so I can
Oh, I
hopefully try to
wouldn't.
sleep better.
I don't know if I do that or not.
I do.
like my coffee.
I have sleep issues, and the other thing too is now that I get health insurance, I'm gonna go see a sleep doctor.
Oh, did you get insurance?
Yeah, I did. This whole COVID thing, some of the side effects that I've had personally have been these hangovers and horrible fatigue.
You think you still got the virus?
I mean, I definitely, from what I've read, I have what they talk about, and the headaches that I have feel like just this horrible hangover all the time. And the fatigue is. Look, man, I drink so much fluids.
Are you exercising?
That's the only thing I know. I just watch what I eat. I haven't started exercising, man. Okay, well, you get back on it too.
All right, man.
Homie, let's get this. Let's
All
be,
right. We got one more for 2020 in December.
Oh, man, yeah. Dude, I really enjoy these.
Yeah.
Again, awesome.
All right, cheers.
Good routine. Keep that consistent. Hey, we may not work out consistently, but we consistently do this.
All right, see you guys next time.
Let's close that bar. Bam!